Good morning, welcome back to Don's Life. Welcome to the channel. It is not nighttime, despite the lighting. We are at Performance Plus here in Saskatoon to get some work done on the GMC Sierra AT4. I know that goes against all my rules, but it's not a hard rule. Today is not going to be a full DIY, but it will have a lot of details and a pretty significant change to the truck. Let's go. So what's changing, you're asking? Well, we are doing something with the front suspension today, and this was intended to be a DIY project on the floor of my garage, and I thought about it. I'm gonna need a spring compressor, and I'll explain why in a bit, and I'm gonna need a wheel alignment. Two things that my garage isn't well equipped for. The thumbnail probably gives it away, but if you didn't pay attention to that, today we are adding a modest level kit to the front end of my GMC Sierra AT4, which already has the Bilstein 5100 ride height adjustable shocks installed. We installed those DIY fashion a few years ago, and they've been great. They've been fantastic. I would do it again in the same scenario, but we don't want to stack the already adjusted shock and a modest level kit, because that's essentially stacking lifts. Remember, we already have a lifted from factory 2-inch lift with the AT4s, so we got to be cognizant of that. So today we're going to lower the clip on the Bilstein shocks back to stock ride height, and then we're going to have the level kit also on here, which is a 1.75-inch level kit. And the Bilsteins, even though they say 1.1 inch of lift, when they settle, it's probably just under an inch. So I think once this is all done, we should be net positive 1 inch in ride height from where we are right now. I'll try not to forget to take a measurement. There's also a reason why we're not doing this on the floor of my garage, which I was fully prepared to do, and which was the intent originally when I ordered this level kit. The problem is time. I work a full-time job, it's my career, plus I would have to rent a spring compressor, which sometimes they're not in the best shape, could be a little dangerous. I know that might sound a little dramatic, but accidents can happen. So when it comes to compressing the spring and adjusting that shock, I wanted to take that to a shop anyway, so I kind of had that in my mind. So I take it all apart, I take the shock in somewhere, I bring it home, I reassemble everything, put in the lift kit, and then I have to go for a wheel alignment. Well, I could just go to Performance Plus here in Saskatoon, and we could do all of those things, and we could be on the road, and I can film some planned content for you with some other big projects that are coming up. So I think it's probably the best way to go. We'll walk you through the install as best as possible so you can see what's going on, and I hope you enjoy it. So let's get in there and get set up. Now, before you judge, I did talk to Performance Plus ahead of time, and they have no problem with me filming this install in their shop. So don't think that I'm being some kind of obnoxious YouTube content creator guy, because that's not my style. Hope you know that by now. But we're gonna go inside and we're going to find out which bay they want us in, and then we're gonna figure this out. Horsepower. These are the Bilstein shocks. They will rust, just so you know. We're replacing these control arms with some sturdier ones. This is going so much quicker. I'm glad I came to a shop to get this done, and I recommend the same to you. So look at the difference in these control arms. Obviously lighter duty, heavier duty. Other than these bushings being heavier duty, it really comes down to the ball joint that helped me make my decision. I have more confidence in this one here than I do with this one. And this is starting to crack a little bit. I mean, it's not compromised, but over time, it's just gonna dry out. This one here will be brand new. And we have a Zerk fitting on the back, so we can also grease them. This one is sealed, no ability to grease it. I mainly want the strength, and I'll get a little more ride height. And part of the reason I chose this one here was for the retention of my auto four-wheel drive feature. It's part of the reason why we're just doing a modest level kit and not anything higher. I'm doing my best to stay out of his way. Big reason number one why we are doing this at a shop with professionals is just corrosion. This nut right here has got to come off. On the last one, we had to heat it up to get that nut to be backed off. And then behind the nut, there's actually corrosion on the threads on the inside. And then of course you have this corrosion on the outside here, which needs to be wire brushed off so we can move the clip down. But to do that, you've got to move this collar up. So it's a real pain in the butt. So here's a reason why on the floor in your garage, a 2 or 3 year old strut and this assembly might not be fun to work with. So a couple things on this side I wanted to show you. So the CV axle, the reason we took the nut off and pushed it through is because these boots are extremely sensitive, and if you cause any damage to them, then that's it, you got to replace it. So we're not in the habit of wanting to do that, so that's why we had to remove the CV axle nut, push the axle through to make sure that the boot and the joints weren't compromised, and then we got to be equally careful when we put it back in.
Good old-fashioned teamwork.
And another good reason on why you want to get this done at a shop by professionals, just look at the tools you need to borrow or have. In this case, they have them all to do it right. So Mitch is just torquing up the wheels, and then we are going to make sure we have a proper wheel alignment so we can be safe on the road, and then I'll drive it home and I'll let you know my impressions. Thank you, sir. All right, guys, it's actually a few days later. I'm sitting here in my truck finishing this video up for you. I wanted to drive the truck for a few days so everything could settle and I could get a feel for everything, make sure there weren't any problems. There were no problems, which is great. I have taken a final measurement. Now remember, and this is important, we had those Bilstein, and still do, ride height adjustable shocks in the truck. At the time of install, 2-3 years ago, they added 1.1 inch of lift, but when they settle, call it 3/4 of an inch, give or take. In this video, we lowered them back to stock height, so they're not going to give any height advantage, and they're not going to take away from any height. So then we added this ReadyLift 1.75 1.75 inch level kit, which should bring us an inch above where we were going in, because if the Bilsteins had settled to 3/4 of an inch, and then we add this 1.75 inch level kit. So let's take the final measurement. We'll show it here and we'll see what we get. Well, there you go. Just as we predicted, we netted positive 1 more inch of ride height. So now we have stronger upper control arms, we have stronger ball joints, and our CV axles still look pretty good. Now, disclaimer, when it comes to level kits, lift kits, please do your own research. There's a lot of conflicting information out there, so just take what I'm talking about as opinion, and please nothing more. So let's quickly recap. You're probably wondering why I decided to do this now and not several years ago. Well, the main thing is I didn't want to give up my auto 4-wheel drive feature. I know it may not be important to many people watching this video. It's very important to me. It works really, really well in the questionable driving conditions that we experience quite often in Canada. Now, here's where doing your research comes in. Out of all the level kits and lift kits out there, so many of them have a disclaimer and a warning not to use your auto 4-wheel drive if you install their kits. This is the one from ReadyLift that does not have that disclaimer. This is the 1.75, but their 2-inch does have that disclaimer. So maybe I'm taking a risk, but I've done some research. I've read a ton of forums. There are some reports here and there of people experiencing issues with their CV axles, but is it from using their auto 4-wheel drive? Maybe, I don't know. I guess I'm the guinea pig here. Of course, I'll let you know if I have any problems. Looking at the angles, in my opinion, I think we're okay. But time will tell, and we'll figure it out, because I plan on keeping that feature turned on all winter here in Saskatoon. And yes, I'll still use 4-high when the roads completely suck, because we do get days like that here. So that covers that reason. You may have seen the video where I was legally forced to remove my fender flares. I explored keeping them on with the addition of some aftermarket mud flaps, but due to a delayed shipment and the date of my inspection, the timing forced me to go back to my stock mud flaps and remove my fender flares. And also, the fender flares that I was running didn't really have a complementary shape to add extra mud flaps. So now we have an extra inch to work with, which is never a bad thing.
That's what she said!
And yes, I'm talking ride height. So that incident was really the catalyst to take my GMC Sierra AT4 in a new, fresh direction. So this is probably the last time that you see it as is in this video, because we have some big plans that we're working on, and some are coming to fruition. I'm just waiting for the product to show up. And thanks again to Travin and Mitch over at Performance Plus here in Saskatoon. I appreciate you letting me film this install. And no, I haven't forgotten that you do supercharger installs, because you keep reminding me every time that we talk. So who knows, if the growth of this channel helps us get there, that we can do projects like that, then I'm all in. And on that note, if you like today's video, hit that like button. Please consider subscribing, and we'll talk to you next time.